Hey, you're watching GEEKCASTER. This is part two. What's going on with superheroes? Alrighty, so you guys are talking about Darkseid last? Where were we at?
We left off
Um,
at how I think Doctor Doom was like the most, I want to say, overly hyped villain. I want to say in superhero
Interesting.
history.
They didn't do him right.
it
Even
depends on which version and what portrayal of Doctor Doom you're referring to.
right.
Yeah.
But I would say with his how he is in the books versus how he's been portrayed in film and maybe even television to a degree because he has been in some animated stuff in video games.
Right.
Um, he's not weak. Just as the meme goes, the man doesn't miss.
Right.
He doesn't miss. I mean, he messes up early on, but even when he does, when you go and look at the lore of Doctor Doom, it's more him not being able to get out of his own way than him getting like beaten by people or other things.
Right.
He
He has
can't
blind
like
spots.
his blind spots is primarily his hubris, his arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he messes up. You know what the analogy I'm going to use? In the world of the pantheon of villains, Doctor Doom is David Ruffin. He's the David Ruffin to their temptations.
Wow.
Okay, without David Ruffin, ain't some temptations are some fake ass temps, right? So when it comes to him, though, the problem is to make it make sense. He screws himself up a lot of the times. He's super talented. He's super capable. He could arguably be the best of them, but he always is tripping himself up within his arrogance.
See, all
That's
right,
why I think he works.
this is where I lose interest because if we're going according to intelligence, right? Who would you put at the top? Would you put Doctor Doom? Would you put Reed Richards, or would you put Tony Stark at the top?
The characters, period, or the villains? Because we were on
The characters,
villains
period.
specifically.
The characters, period.
Doctor Doom
Okay.
and Tony Stark should be kind of neck and neck, just different ways of doing things. Because Doctor Doom is supposed to be brilliant. He's actually supposed to be
Supposed to be
smarter
brilliant, right?
than
But
than all of Fantastic Four. It's just that again, the arrogance. You know, that's what holds him back, and also his vanity too.
see, even when you look at it that way in the comics, then why is it always that Reed is outsmarting Doctor Doom? It's not like he's looking at his biases and going off of that. He's just literally outthinking him. So if you have the smartest person, like Tony Stark, there's not
Oh.
too many people who can outthink Tony
Well,
Stark.
let's say it this way: he's the smartest, but he's not the wisest. Because if he was, you know what I mean? It's like to Drew's point, his arrogance gets in his way. If he was wise, he wouldn't be so arrogant. He would take the time, sit back, you know what I mean? Like, and plan things too. He makes mistakes.
Well, it's also like, all right, I think the idea of Doctor Doom was to say, like, if anyone had superpowers, and if you had like evil intentions, this is probably what you would become, right? You would not become a hero. You would become a villain, and you would take all your biases, all your hubris, and you go in that direction. I think that's Doctor Doom's example or cautionary tale, right?
No,
Do you
because
see
then
that?
No,
Superman
I'm not going with
would
that.
fit into that, right?
Why not?
No,
Because Superman,
yeah.
it comes from a planet of hope, and he is supposed to be like our, not savior, but he's supposed to be the best example that we aspire towards.
Well, that's why Red Sun is so interesting because it's bending.
Right.
Superman is basically a product of his
Bends the known
environment,
narrative.
right? So
It bends
so
the known and what many would consider boring narrative of Superman is born and raised on a farm and becomes the most OP of all of us. That's what I think that difference
right,
is.
right. But in Red
So-
Sun, he was raised in Russia. So if he's raised in Russia, he'll be raised with those
different set of
political
values.
ideals and this and that. So the fact that I mean, it's kind of an interesting way of saying that. Well, if you're raised on a farm by two loving parents, you're going to be the Boy Scout. You're going to be all American. You know, that's kind
Yeah,
of
but
like
you're-
the message without them saying.
That's a nice portrayal of it, Seven. I will give you that. It's at the core of it, that you're not wrong. At the core of it is, look, if you raise a kid in a place that is mostly what you consider calm, like, you know, serene, one with nature, but also like kind of modern in its way, by two parents, ideally a mom and a dad, who both teach you, like, the value of life and morals and all that
Right.
stuff. Even, like, they've never particularly portrayed the Kents as, like, religious or Christian or anything like that, so
Right.
you don't necessarily have the religious angle.
Right.
But it is the core idea where people get irritated with Superman as the nuclear family, all-American, white bread, mother, father, son, daughter dynamic,
Right.
which, that's never perfect. It's not necessarily the staple for what you would create or would create a functioning or well-meaning moral human being.
But you guys are proving my point, though, with Doctor Doom.
Well, no, that's what I was saying. We're dumping back to Doctor Doom because that ain't the thing. Anyone who's read the books of Doom, which is the best take on his backstory, knows that Doctor Doom, back to your question on who's better, Reed Richards or Doctor Doom, it's the Ryu and Ken dynamic is what I call this. It's one is more naturally talented or attuned to something, and the other works really, really hard on it. They're not as good at it as the former, but they work their ass up to the point where eventually they're either neck and neck or a little bit better. If you wanted to take this step once and use two other characters, it's Vegeta versus Goku, right? Vegeta, naturally talented, but arrogant. Goku, not as talented, but he works really hard. He's constantly training, constantly eating, and that's why he's able to consistently beat Vegeta, because while Vegeta is naturally better, Goku works at it harder, right? Dr. Doom works at his science harder. He's not naturally talented. Reed Richards is born that way. His brain is just wired a very specific way to where he's so smart that he damn near seems autistic. He almost can't human very well because of all the stuff and smart guy thoughts that he has going on in his head. Dr. Doom, on top of being motivated by the whole thing with his mom got taken by a demon. I think it's like the Prince of Demons, Blackheart, is it? Yeah, Blackheart has his mom in hell. So not only is it like I need to master this science stuff, but I also have to add this magic element because that's part of his power set.
Right.
He does both. He mixes magic and science together, which is a completely fringe and different art thing than Reed Richards is even he's not even familiar with it. Reed Richards hates magic because he can't understand it. So again, the guy who works harder, he's not as talented as Reed Richards, but he works harder at it and then will blend other styles to be better at him. But his arrogance screws him up.
Now, is there two backstories with Doctor Doom? One, he wears a mask to hide his identity. The other one is because he got like a cut on his face. He's so vain that he's wearing the mask.
Yes, the David Ruffin, I'm too pretty for this stuff. He cuts his face. He messed his face up doing something.
Right.
And it pissed him off so much that he makes the whole mask. And in certain iterations of the comic,
right,
he's so eager to get it on that he takes the mask before it stops cooling and puts it on his face while it's
and it's stuck.
And now it's stuck. I'm like, that's the old 60s, 70s thing.
Okay.
Right? But it kind of just, with the bare bones of the character being what it is, it shows that's what his in his haste and his arrogance, that's what his brilliance can bring about.
Right.
And this
Smartest
is where,
guy, but messes himself up.
Right.
This is where
smart, life dumb.
I wouldn't even say book smart, like you said, work hard, but because they're all on that whole spaceship, right? And then that whole ray, they all get their powers, right? Isn't that his origin story? Isn't that where he gets his powers? They all get it together with Fantastic Four.
That was that terrible Fox movie with Jessica Alba that people were referring to.
Yeah. He's separate. Only Fantastic Four was on.
I never read his independent comics, so that's why I was like,
okay, read the book. The Books of Doom is the absolute definitive, in my opinion, the best version of his backstory you could ever get for Dr. Doom. It shows step by step this dude from childhood as a childhood gypsy, all the way up to him in college when he meets Reed Richards, all the way up to the day that he jacks up and mangles his face, and it just shows how he sets the framework for what he eventually he gets his own nation, which is Home Nation, right? Mm-hmm. He's a villain, but he's a villain that's very compelling. I'll put it to you that way. He's very compelling as a villain.
All right, I guess I spoke out of turn because I never read his books. I just figured everyone was usually on that same point.
It would be nice to see a compelling version of what's his name, Lex Luthor.
There's a book for that too. It's called Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
It portrays. No, it is. It's. I have it. It's right over there. It is the book that made me kind of start to root for Lex Luthor as a villain, because his argument is all the stuff that you guys look up to Superman for, we are perfectly capable of doing it ourselves as humans. We're not dumb. We're totally capable. Earth could be safe if we all actually worked for it. Like how I did, who was poor and came from nothing. I wasn't a rich boy. I didn't come from money. I'm bald. I just worked my ass off. And if I can do it, you can do it too. Right? But the problem with Lex is it's a little bit of hubris, I think, but it's hubris that he's built it on his own steam. In his way, he's kind of like a walking representation of one who like dedicates himself to like academic and physical rigor and enhancing your mind and all that stuff, what you can achieve when you come from nothing. And he thinks that humans can do it. We don't need Superman to be our big brother defending us and being our big, Kansas-born white savior that we just look up to the skies to and have him solve all our problems for us. I get with that message. I get with it. But he's willing to do nefarious, messed up stuff to people in order to prove his point.
Right. So that doesn't make him a good example or that idea, right?
Oh, no.
That's the age-old...
Wow. No, just something on my end. I think I did... oh, man. I'm slipping. All right. Well, this would be your audio version of what we're doing. This is a great episode, man. This is a great episode.
We're officially a podcast.
We're officially a podcast.
Works for me.
Say it
so,
again.
like I was saying, we have, I guess, the age-old idea that humans can aspire greatness if they just work towards it, right? So if that's the idea, then why don't we have more Dalai Lamas or Mother Teresa's or people who are just good for the sake of being good, right? There's a lot of human examples like Lex Luthor in our world more than the latter. So I think this is why innately I think we root for the heroes. We understand the villains, but it never just sits right within like the human spirit, if that makes sense.
Well, you want to know why that's the case? When what doesn't sit right with people? It's the idea of one actively having to do it. Everyone wants to talk about being a better person. Everyone likes to think of themselves as better people. But when it comes to sitting down and actively doing it, that's a whole different sphere. It's a whole other different thing, right? Talking versus the action. Lex Luthor does it, but he does it without this, I can't say like a line of morality, because he does do things that are moral, but he toes this line. It's like a razor thin line that he'll walk. He'll do a good deed, but in turn, like he'll do a bad deed. So it's like he's not a heel, but he's also not, everyone's favorite perfect hero. Like Superman is portrayed as more often than not. That's the difference.
And he makes a good point. I mean, think about it. Like, why should we trust this alien? Why should
it's the idea of hero worship. We talk about it all the time. It's like
Right.
you want to put your celebrities and stuff on this pedestal. This person had a good album, so let's make them the leader of an entire community. It's like, dude,
No.
that's hasty.
Right.
And when you do that, you don't really know who you're trusting at the end of the day.
Right.
It's like if that person woke up tomorrow and decided, hey, I'm going to put all y'all on the chopping block. This whole section of humanity gets to go to the thresher. Your leader and Lord says so. Whatever you say, like that's that blind fealty, that can get you messed up. That's the cautionary part of, I think, Lex Luthor as a character, where it's like the blind trust in Superman could get you all killed one day. Just saying.
I don't agree with that because Seven and I had this conversation before, right? And I mean, now we're going to get deeply philosophical. So if you have two people who, let's say they wanted to become singers, right? They have the same range. They went to the same school. They have the same intelligence level. They work the same. One makes it, one doesn't, even though they have the same work ethic. What's missing, right? How can you quantify why this person made it and this person didn't? You kind of can't, right?
Yeah, you can.
So, okay.
You can. You ask person A, the person that succeeded, what'd you do to get there? And then you ask the person B, what have you been doing thus far?
Again, like I said, they did the same exact thing. They've been to the same exact interviews. They've tried the same exact route of getting signed or noticed. It's just one person happened to get noticed more than the other. And this person, A, went on to become a star, while this person B, even though they have the same talent,
Yeah.
same level of work
I think you
ethic.
need another example because there's so many loopholes to that I could shoot down.
There's a
Like,
lot of factors that could have been.
yeah,
One was just had more stage presence than the other. Maybe one went in and blew somebody low key behind the scenes, and that's how they got the gig.
or
We don't know.
who knows them.
Who
There's
you
some
know,
sort
yeah,
of
maybe.
factor. Somebody put more money into what they were doing versus the other person. There's so many things, but your point is, if all things are equal, what?
Hmm.
What's the difference effectively? What if all
Right.
things being equal, what would be that X factor that makes one chosen versus the other?
Right. And that would be it. The X might be the X
That
factor.
X factor, that's what they
Right, but
call
what
it.
is the X factor? Because that X factor can stop you from becoming a hero or a villain, doing good things or bad things, right? And I think that's deeply, well, we don't really know what it is. I think it's just deeply innate in each human. Like we all have our own X factors
Well, I
that
think
could
this is
lead us
why
to
the
greatness, but we never
excitement.
find it.
I think this is why people are excited when I'm going to do the backstory of Doctor Doom. I'm going to do the backstory of because people want more. They want to understand, or they want to play with. Well, what could have made this person this way? I think
You
even
want,
with
yeah,
the
you want
Joker,
fuller context of the character.
fuller context. I mean, like Joker, there's several different backstories of how Joker became to be, and they're all kind of interesting. Just because, how do you get to the point where you're just not predictable, or you know
I
what I mean?
well, that there you go. You nailed it right there. I'd say what makes them work because in most instances, when you try and define, if you take a good character
Mm-hmm.
and then you try to give them a finite backstory on this is how you became this character,
Right,
the character tends to suck after that, or that part of their origin tends to suck.
right.
When you try to explain the X factor,
Mm-hmm.
you get kind of just a watered down version. Whatever you had framed in your mind as what happened to that character or what their backstory is, you get the watered down reality of it, and it's never as exciting. It's
Right.
next to never as
I mean,
interesting.
that's why Joker is so exciting because there's no, you can't lock him down.
Exactly. You can't lock him down. It's like I like when he says the line. Some people's stories are like A and B. His are multiple choice.
Right.
It could be whatever the hell. Deadpool's the same way in most cases. The whole
Right.
I had a girlfriend once and then got cancer. And my girlfriend is my entire existence. That was the movie version because most audiences can't fathom the idea of having a life without a romantic interest at the tethering you to your actions.
Mhm.
But it's the idea of we don't know where this person came from. They have their quirks, they have their isms because of something that happened to them in their past.
Right.
You get hints of it, but never the full story. I think those work best, at least for your enigmatic or well-written characters.
Mhm.
Mystery is good. The X factor, whatever that keynote that draws people to that character,
Right.
trying to explain it away in a full-on backstory. I was raised a poor black child. That's cool, but what else you got?
So then the Lex Luthor argument doesn't hold weight because, like you said, if he's saying that we shouldn't aspire to be this alien example of the greatest that we can be, then why don't we? That
Well-
was your saying, right? If
Well, no,
Lex Luthor's whole
we
argument,
were
huh?
we were both saying two different things. I was just saying that it makes sense to build up this anti-alien mentality or propaganda or what because think about it, if an alien comes tomorrow, there's going to be people running to the alien, running away from the alien, trying to make the alien into something to be worshipped, and then there's going to be people anti it. So it makes sense to have a character that says, "Hey, first of all, his ego. You should be worshiping me. I went from nothing to something, right?" So that goes
I
into
don't
it.
think that's
and
what
then
Lex Luthor was saying, but all right.
You should be worshiping me is where I squint.
okay, why you say that?
Not
Because he's
so
not
much.
selfless at all. He's very
Not
proud.
you're
character.
thinking of Gene Hackman, where Gene Hackman is constantly as Lex Luthor filleting himself with how smart he likes to think he is. That's the live action take. The Lex Luthor in the books I think is a lot less self-aggrandizing than that. He's proud of what he's done, sure, but he's not walking around constantly patting himself on the back and saying I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest. The point I was making with Lex is that I understand his argument because it's right. You're relying on a hero. You're relying on your celebrity worship is what drives you at this point. You'd not rather than the whole bootstraps do it yourself argument. You'd rather just put all your reliance in hero worship, Like, okay, you can do that for now, but I'm a living example of that. You could have done something else with your time.
So the Red Sun version of Lex Luthor is more like that version of Lex Luthor. You like that, where it is about his mentality towards people and the world and how he thinks things should be. Because that Lex Luthor was not that far gone into like ego.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, with Superman, the alternate takes on Superman,
Mm-hmm.
you invariably, whatever alternate take you get of Superman, the more different Superman is, the more of a hero Lex Luthor tends to be.
Interesting.
That's the power, an outright hero, I'll say. And usually the difference is he just does more humanitarian work. He's on the side of people fighting for humanity. When you see Lex Luthor in like parallel, what was it, the Flashpoint Paradox? He's like one of the main dudes leading the charge against the war that's about to kill us all. He's teamed up with other used-to-be villains or whatever, but he's like one of the main heroes trying to protect all humanity, and I always thought that was very interesting.
And Flashpoint?
Flashpoint Paradox, yeah, Lex Luthor's there. He's getting it in. He dies, but he's getting it in.
I gotta watch it again, because I don't
Go watch it again. The more obscure the version of Superman, the more outright of a hero Lex Luthor is, which to me is, again, it's interesting. It's just you issuing the professional businessman persona and just being a humanitarian.
Wow. Well, that makes sense. And because, again, your superhero is just as good as your villain. So they should...
better.
Say it again?
The villain has to be better in a lot of cases, I would say.
Yeah, they have to.
Because otherwise, how much cooler can the hero look if the villain is whack? He has to be that much better.
You got to have a good villain. And I think that's honestly why a lot of the movies aren't working too well. Because the villains are like, all right, well, I'm not even... You could actually spend half the movie on the villains to really build up... So especially if the superhero is already established. If you're going to do the whole backstory of the superhero again, and I get it. But if we already know what's going on, we really, within the first 20 pages, really have to feel that this villain really got things under control, and the superhero is going to have a hard time. We got to feel like it's not going to be easy win.
You have to have a display of skill with like not just your main villain, but also the people that villain surrounds him or herself with, right? Whatever you have them do, you have to like show that they can be intimidating, but also that they're fixed on a goal, whatever that goal may be. World domination, taking over the bakery, whatever the goal of that villain is.
Right.
You got to be that much more driven and that kind of much, I'd argue cooler to sound not too shallow, but they also, they gotta kind of have like that intimidation factor where it's like, dude, how is our main character even gonna go up against this person?
Show enough.
Yeah, and he wasn't even that much better than Bruce Leroy.
He was weightless.
He was, he had
bigger. He just had the bigger personality.
He was bigger. He had more reach than Leroy.
Well, you saw his hands.
You saw his hair.
He got the red glow. Yeah.
He got the red glow. His hands will cup your face.
And it was just in his hands. It wasn't even the full body stuff. So he was kind of watered down.
Oh man, are we gonna see a recasting of all of the superheroes? It looks like it, right? Of the Justice League.
Eventually.
Yeah, it's James Gunn, man. It's a whole new ship. It's a whole new boat. We're not gonna get cameos. If he did that, it screws up his own thing because now he's dipping into a completely different canon instead of films.
Gotcha.
So it's going to be all new. We're going to get new Wonder. I think today's announcement of Wonder Woman wasn't, everybody. Batman's going to be different. Wonder Woman's different. Superman's different. That's the Trinity right there.
I mean, we've all seen so many iterations of Crisis of Infinity Earths. Do you think we'll see it in movies, or do you want to see it?
Leave it alone. Do something else. I don't. No. To answer your question bluntly, no, I don't, because they did it once. It sucked, and let's just go back and try that one again because it's the one that all the comic nerds like. No, nah, you got to try harder than that. Do something else. Do a very good Starro. Start there.
Wow.
Oh wait, no, they killed Starro already. I'm sorry, they killed Starro in his Justice League, not the Justice League, the Suicide Squad.
Oh, that's right.
Starro was the last villain in that one. That's right.
So where does the reboot start? Is it basically from this Superman coming out? So everything's up for
it's the
grabs.
Superman. Yeah, we're doing a whole thing. He's like, it's James Gunn machine right now, so we're getting that. We're getting a Wonder Woman. We're probably getting a Batman. So whoever that is, we'll see. Now that one, if James Gunn doing a Batman movie, it's potentially dangerous because he's a comedic guy. The last thing I want is for Batman, in any portrayal circa now, is to stop and do a dance routine on some Adam West crap.
Okay.
And I'm as much as musically inclined as James Gunn is in his films. I have a weird feeling that he's going to work in a dance number in a Batman movie. That would piss me off.
Would it piss you off if it's more like Batman Beyond? Because that's dance numbery. That's also
they're in clubs when they do that. They're in designated areas for doing all that crap. I don't want a fight scene. I don't want a mid-fight scene. This is what they would do in the Adam West one. Mid-fight scene, they'd all stop and then dance. And I'm like, what the hell is this? No, get on with it. So, no. Club scene, Batman dancing, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to see all that. The stupid two-finger dance.
Oh, man. I didn't think about that. I'm still waiting for a really good Batman movie I could embrace.
You didn't like the Batman with Pattinson? Chris, whatever his name?
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson, yeah.
It was all right.
I think it was a great.
I think the Catwoman thing is what threw me off. That was unnecessary to have her as a villain.
It's what's her face, so it's already kind of unnecessary. But yeah.
Right.
Now, to be fair, I don't like her as an actress. I think she's kind of just the same. I've said this before. She's just kind of the same. Desperate. My preferably white daddy didn't want me. Please love me. But her portrayal of Catwoman wasn't the worst.
No.
That whole revelation of her being the John Turturro's daughter, the unwanted chocolated daughter that he didn't deal with. That was kind of a neat little reveal. And then she leaves at the end of the day, which I kind of felt, good, she's out of there. Now we can actually get a better character in her place. So,
would it have mattered if it wasn't Zoe Kravitz, if it was someone else, or are we just mad at how Catwoman was written into the movie?
How she was written wasn't the problem. It was more the portrayal. She did okay for what it was, what they gave her, what they asked her, that character. It was all right. You just noticed the pattern for me. It was with Zoe Kravitz. She always has to play the unwanted chocolated daughter of some rich white guy. And she's always pining for the main white character in the movies. And it's just like, dude,
it's consistent.
We get it. We get it. Yeah, once the consistency shows up, it's like, okay, we get it, Zoe. Are you going to try and play a different character sometime? No. Same old, huh? All right. And then it's on to the next. But Catwoman as a character, how she was written, it was all right. She was cool.
And in Patterson's Batman, the brooding... I mean, of course, Batman is supposed to grow and develop, but where he was and what he was doing at the time, he should have been a little more mature. Like, first of all, he should have never fell for Catwoman. Oops. Let's see. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. We're right at the end here. Alrighty. You're watching GEEKCASTER. Sorry about that, folks. This is the end of the episode. This is a great episode, by the way. We will fix these bumps in the road. And but this is a great conversation. Oh, my goodness. And we will definitely talk about more about our superheroes. In fact, let's see if we can come back and do a part 3. Let's see.